fighting for the values that make Nebraska the good life. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
We're still talking trash. All the fun happenings right now, Wyatt. We're not done. We talked about them yesterday and the day before. I'm going to get to that. Yesterday, Trump took advantage of Biden's comments, and it always happens during and after our show. All the good stuff. I'm going to play Biden's comment again because I've had people saying, hey, Doug, I want to hear it. I didn't get a chance to hear it. So we'll get to that here in just a second. If you have a question or comment throughout the show, you're welcome to call or text the Irrigation Talk and Text line 402-479-1400. You can also comment on any of our 8 social media feeds as well and check us out there. Well, Tuesday, as Vice President Kamala Harris made a major speech to voters calling for unity right outside of the White House. Inside the White House, President Biden took a swipe at former President Trump and his supporters. And it was during a virtual Harris campaign as well, which was interesting. Biden ratcheted up the rhetoric, and we played it yesterday, but I've had people again asking for us to play it again. So here's what Biden said.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. He's failed businessman. He only cares about the billionaire friends he has and accumulating wealth for those at the top. He says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Give me a break. He wants to do away with the birthright citizenship. Who the hell has said that in the last 100 years? And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done.
There you go. So if you support Trump, you're a piece of trash.
Apparently. I'm glad you played this clip because I saw something today while I was scrolling on TikTok, out of all places, that back during 2016, Senator Clinton called Trump supporters deplorables.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I do. I'm surprised that you saw that.
Someone brought it up on my TikTok today, and when you played that clip, it brought me back. So I had to throw that out there. So maybe there'll be a repeating trend. We don't know.
Well, that's what they do all the time. So Wyatt, I'm impressed. I am impressed. Well, not to be outdone, of course, President Trump took advantage of the whole thing, which it's genius, right? He held a presser out of a garbage truck, which is hilarious. And I was talking about that today with Senator Fisher and just how funny it was. Then he wears a garbage worker's safety vest on stage last night in Green Bay. And then Kamala tries to really distance herself from this with no avail. She said, I think, first of all, he clarified his comments. Well, he didn't. But let it be clear, she says, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. Really? Because she's already been calling conservatives names along the way. Harris also told reporters that she did speak with the president last night, but the garbage comment did not come up. And then on top of that, they have a press conference, right? President Biden's press secretary comes out and she said the comments were taken completely out of context. Well, you just heard it right there. It's pretty clear.
It seems pretty clear to me.
So, all right, as things heat up at the election week, we've got a lot going on. We're seeing a lot of jockeying for local races as well that include false and misleading information. And today we're going to dig into some of that. As a matter of fact, today and tomorrow, we are going to dig into the commissioner races of all things, right? You would think, why are things getting negative with the commissioner race? We have shenanigans happening, and we're going to dig into that with today's guest, Jeremy Kuehn, Lancaster County Commissioner candidate for District 2, and Larry Hudkins is coming in, a 30-year commissioner here in Lancaster County, because Larry's been told that there's an insinuation that he's endorsed Krista Yoakum in this race. So we're going to talk about that and kind of get to the bottom of that. Tomorrow, David Russell's going to come in. He's Lancaster County Commissioner candidate. Chelsea Johnson put out a mailer that just basically a lot of false and misleading claims as well. So he's going to clarify that. Then on Monday, Senator Deb Fisher is going to come in, and she's going to respond to Dan Osborne's flip-flops of calling Trump embarrassing and incompetent to now wanting to help him build the wall. I can't even make this up. And, he says, I'm where President Trump is now on corruption, China, and the border. Anyway, all right. We're going to dig into more of this as well next Tuesday night. an extended hour of Drive Time Nebraska. We're going to go from 5 to 7. We'll take your calls. We're going to have candidates calling in, and we're also going to hear commentary and insight all show long from former executive director of the Nebraska Republican Party and political consultant Bud Seinhorst, and former host of Drive Time here at KLIN, and chairman now of the Lancaster County Republican Party, Jack Riggins. All right, coming up after the break, we'll be joined by Jeremy Kuehn and also Larry Hudkins. If you got a question or comment, call or text the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line 402-479-1400, plus your chance to play Fantasy Huskers, as we have been, for several weeks now. Put your name in the hat to win some prizes from Valentino's and Best of Big Red. Thanks so much for listening on your drive home today. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Stay informed and stay engaged.
They keep me up to date.
KLIN, Lincoln.
There's a cornerstone mechanic causing quite a stir. Our own folk hero goes by Osborne.
Dan Osborne saved the factory, fought for every man. Told those corporate suits, get out of here, your greed ain't gonna stand. Independent, run for Senate, he's got some damn good plans. He ain't in it for the money, it's the folks he understands. Dan Osborne, he works for a living. The billionaires don't like the fight he's given. Secure the border, stop the corporate scam. It's time to elect Dan, the working man.
Now DC Deb is spending millions lying about our Dan. Well, we Cornhuskers won't fall for it. We're sticking with the Osborne man.
Drain the swamp of your Nebraskans. Come on, elect Dan, the working man.
This is Independent Dan Osborne, candidate for U.S. Senate in Nebraska, and I approve this message. Paid for by Osborne for Senate.
Senate candidate Dan Osborne, like many of the D.C. Democrats backing his campaign, supports illegal immigrants. Osborne says,
there definitely needs to be a clear path to citizenship.
And that means giving amnesty to 11 million illegal immigrants already in the U.S. Osborne also wants to give illegals U.S. taxpayer-funded Social Security. And he sounds serious.
Just give him a damn Social Security card already.
Dan Osborne sure sounds a lot like his Democrat friends, like Kamala Harris.
We can create an earned pathway to citizenship.
Joe Biden.
A pathway to citizenship.
Bernie Sanders.
A path toward citizenship.
And Osborne.
A clear path to citizenship.
Democrat in sheep's clothing Dan Osborne and his Democrat friends. Just plain wrong and too liberal for Nebraska.
Just give him a damn Social Security card already.
Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.senateleadershipfund.org.
For radical liberal Kamala Harris, there's no compromising her extreme positions.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example? Is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions.
That's Kamala Harris, stating that doctors and nurses should be forced to perform abortions, even if they have moral or religious objections. Kamala Harris has always been extreme on abortion, supporting a radical policy of no limits and no protections up until the moment of birth. That's why Kamala Harris supports Initiative 439 in Nebraska. With its intentionally vague language, Initiative 439 eliminates common sense protections for women and children. No parental notification for minors, no requirement that abortions be performed by doctors, and no protections for women from pressure and coercion. Reject Kamala Harris's extreme agenda. On your ballot, vote for Initiative 434 and no on Initiative 439. That's 4-4 and no on 9.
Paid for by Jim Shear for Regent.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Disagree with Doug, the guests, the topic? Call or text 402-479-1400 now to be a part of the show. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Happy Halloween. It will be partly cloudy and cool this evening, with the temperature dropping into the low 40s by midnight. After midnight, mostly clear to partly cloudy and chilly, with a low temperature in the mid-30s. Friday, mostly sunny and breezy, with a high temperature in the low 60s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
Has some slow spots. You might want to find a different way around on your way home. Tonight you have downtown and all along O Street, stretching out to 84th Street. Also South 14th Street and Nebraska Parkway, and South 84th and Pioneers. Do keep in mind that Nebraska Parkway, 33rd to 40th Street, you have that eastbound lane closure that is going on weekdays only for paving work. And do be aware of the trick-or-treaters out this evening, and make sure the headlights are on. If you do see anything that gets your way, call our traffic tip line, 402-479-1414. Lincoln's listening to Time Saver Traffic.
Now, back to more Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, I'm excited to announce a new author joining the author group and academy. Barry Law, John Barry, CEO of Barry Law, has come out with a brand new book on leadership, and it's titled Veteran-Led Leadership Lessons from the Trenches. And, John is a former U.S. Army platoon leader, so he's drawn on his military experience, teaching how discipline, urgency, and efficiency help businesses thrive. And as we approach Veterans Day, I think this would be a great opportunity. No better time to not only get the book in your hand, but also learn from somebody who's leading both in the courtroom and the boardroom. Veteran-Led can be purchased online at barrylaw.com. You get a pre-order of the copy, and then when it comes out, they will get it to you. So go to barrylaw.com for that book. Yesterday, very informative show. We had State Senator Luann Linehan in, and she provided some really valuable and good context to learn about the school choice referendum 435 that is on the ballot. We also heard from Father Lawrence Stolle. He's the superintendent of schools for the Catholic Diocese of Lincoln about it as well. Listen to that one, please. You need to listen to that before you actually go in and vote. If you missed it, you can check out the podcast at klin.com or go to any of your favorite podcast services. All right, today and tomorrow, we're going to focus in on the political trifecta. Wyatt, what are they?
You got me on that one. I'll give you that.
Again? All right. Well, as it relates to the top key things that impact our lives day in and day out, city council, school board, and county commissioner. Right. So we're going to dig into that today. We're joined by a candidate who's running for one of those political trifectas, Lancaster County Commissioner. Jeremy Kuehn's in the studio. He's running for District 2. There's been a little bit of misinformation as well as far as support and all that. We're going to dig into that. And we're also joined in the studio by former commissioner board member for almost 30 years, Larry Hudkins as well. So Jeremy and Larry, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Larry, it's good to see you. This is the first time we really met in person, and it's been fun. I enjoy it.
Well, it's good to be back, and appreciate seeing the person behind the voice that I listen to on the radio.
You mean Wyatt, right? Yeah. He's the good looking one. So I think he takes care of me.
Well, it's about a toss.
Hey, I moved in a little bit there. All right. Well, I tell you what, let's start out. I just want Jeremy, it's been about a month since you've been in. I just really like for both of you actually to kind of share about your stories and how you ultimately got to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm running for commissioner.
Well, my wife's favorite part of the story is when I actually called her and said, I'm registering to run for commissioner. She was like, we're doing what? But I grew up the son of a sheriff's deputy, and I saw the effect that the county had, not only in my family, but just in the county at large, and how big of an influence this level of government had over the community. And so actually for me, back in 2016, at the beginning of the year, something that my wife and I will do, we'll just write out ideas, things that we want to see happen. And in 2016, I wrote down run for county commissioner. And that began the process of just research and looking into this. So this has not been an overnight thing. And then moving into the Highlands in 2021, I noticed pretty quickly that this seat was going to be coming up. And so just began making plans, and here I am running.
So to you, how does this impact our day-to-day lives? Because I've been pushing this on the show for a long time now to say this is important. We've got outside money coming in, negative ads now for county commissioner of all things. Obviously, there is a reason behind that because it impacts our daily lives.
Sure. So the first touch point that people are going to find are either going to be in our county roads or in our property evaluations.
Yep.
That's for everybody. Property taxes are the biggest touch point, and those are driven by the county. Now, there is state law around how those are assessed and everything, but that's probably going to be people's most sensitive touch point, is what we'll say there. The other primary thing that the county does for people that I think a lot of people don't understand is the partnership that you have with our law enforcement. In Lancaster County specifically, there's only 2 law enforcement entities. There you have Lancaster County Sheriff and you have Lincoln PD. And of course, we have our state patrol, but that's a statewide thing. So for all the towns that aren't Lincoln, you are leaning into your county to provide for those calls for service, for keeping our streets safe. So it's actually a really, really big deal that I think we often take for granted.
Yeah. Larry, how about you? You've got a storied career in politics. So does your wife as well, who's in the studio with us. But I'd love to hear more about just your history and ultimately how you got involved in politics as well.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't think much about politics as a kid growing up, went to Waverly High School, but I had a wonderful FFA teacher, Mr. Jim Wall, for 17 years. And I was just a poor kid living on a tenant farm. And he actually co-signed my note for my first FFA heifer, breeding heifer. As a result, I got involved and really focused and was named Star Farmer in Nebraska. And as a result of that, I got to go behind the Iron Curtain, the first FFA Goodwill mission behind the Iron Curtain. And when I lived and worked with people in Czechoslovakia, Poland, and Hungary, I realized what a wonderful opportunity we had in this country. Those people didn't have any control over their future. I sat down, being a farm boy, I always had all I wanted to eat. I sat down to one meal and we had each one boiled potato and one boiled egg. They had a window with 4 panes in it. Only 3 of them were glass. The other one was wax paper. They'd been waiting a year and a half. Socialism doesn't work. And so I came back really invigorated that I didn't know how I was going to help, but I wanted to get involved. And I started out as a co-op board and then on the president of the Lancaster County Feeders and Breeders and on the school board out at Malcolm. And then a group of people came to me and said, we haven't had a farmer on the Lancaster County board in 30 years since Dale Harlan out at Hickman. Would you please do it? And I said, I don't have time to do this. They said, you've been giving these speeches and showing your slides of what it's like behind the Iron Curtain. You know, if we don't make a difference and don't stand up for the things and we don't have representation, it's not going to work. So that's the reason I got involved. And I said, I'll run for 1 term. Little did I ever think I'd run for 7 more after that.
Let me ask you this. This year seems, and I know politics over the decades have taken their turns, but man, this year just seems like everything's so vicious. We've got outside money coming in. There's a lot of just negative attacks. It's so blatant now. Was it like that when you first started running? I mean,
oh no.
And we're talking about the commissioner board too. This is happening.
This is really disturbing. This is what I don't like, this outside money coming in to influence a race on the county level. You know, the county commissioners do a lot more work than I ever visualized when I went. And each one of us had 5 agencies that we pretty much were liaison to. And you really got to know them. And the county does a lot of work. And the credit to the commissioners, they're unsung heroes. All 5 of them are very conscientious people. They're trying to do their best. But these races have gotten so contentious. The first time when I got in, we forgot who was Democrat and Republican after the election. We just did what was best for the county. And really, I'd have to say almost all through 6, 7 terms, it was that way. But the last one I served 8 years ago wasn't fun. It was like you chose up sides and you were one side or the other, and you didn't use common sense and didn't go through. And I guess what I am concerned about in this race is all this outside money coming in. My race, I sold $5 tickets down in the Haymarket area to raise money. I mean, I ran a campaign on $3,000. I ran it against Stephanie Johans, who later was a governor's wife, and I got cream the first time. I mean, I didn't get a third of the votes, but yet 3 years later, she was appointed to the state legislature, and she came to me and she says, Larry, we had a good, clean race. I think you do a good job. Why don't you take a look at this? And so Mike Hevican, who was that time county there, and Mr. Nurenberger and Mr. Baker, the county treasurer, chose me for 1 year to fill out Stephanie Johans's term as county commissioner. And I liked it. So I decided to run for 4 years and 7 more terms afterwards.
All right, we're going to take a break here. We're going to find out why you think, and I'm going to get your opinion on why you think it's so contentious, what the reasoning is behind it all. So we'll dig into that. I'm going to talk about the political trifecta and how important that is. Going to get into Jeremy's top priorities that he wants to work on. And also, I'm going to find out where Larry stands as far as his support, because it's there's an insinuation that maybe he's supporting somebody else. So we'll find out and ask him about that. Plus, your chance to play Fantasy Hustlers is right around the corner. Stay tuned. We'll get that word out for you, that keyword, and then you can text it in 402-479-1400. Cities from across the state, they're listening to Drive Time Nebraska.
You can call if you want to, or I guess you can text. Either way, the number is the same, 402-479-1400 on the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text Line. Hunt Irrigation, the water smart company.
At Lincoln Coin and Bullion, your privacy is their priority. Secure your confidential appointment to buy or sell silver and gold today with Nebraska's largest historic currency and bullion dealer.
Hi, I'm State Senator Bo Ballard. I was born and raised right here in Lancaster County. I understand the value of hard work by being involved in our family business. I built my own company, creating jobs right here in our community. Nebraska families and business owners need lower taxes, more affordable health care, and a great education system. That is why I fought for the largest tax cut in Nebraska history, reduce the cost of health care, and help pass the biggest investment in our public schools. I'm Senator Bo Ballard, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th, paid for by Ballard for Nebraska.
There's a lot of confusion around women's health care on your November ballot. To protect women and children, you have to vote on 2 separate initiatives. Vote for Initiative 434 and vote no on Initiative 439. That's voting for, and voting no on 9. Vote for clear, scientific, compassionate standards that protect women and doctors. Vote no on 9 against vague, unscientific laws that invite government intrusion. Vote for to preserve parents' right to know when their daughters are in crisis. Vote no on 9 against care by those who aren't licensed physicians. Vote for to protect patients, women, and children across Nebraska. On your ballot, remember, protecting women and children and keeping patients safe takes 2 votes. Vote for Initiative 434 and vote no on Initiative 439. That's 4 and no on 9. Paid for by Protect Women and Children.
As our voice on the University of Nebraska Board of Regents, Republican Rob Schaefer is getting the job done. Schaefer is working to keep tuition affordable, hold the line on spending, and ensure the university better reflects our conservative values. That's why the Nebraska Farm Bureau and U.S. Senators Deb Fischer and Pete Ricketts have endorsed Rob Schaefer. For experienced leadership and conservative common sense, vote Republican Rob Schaefer for Regent.
Paid for by Rob Schaefer for Board of Regents.
The following bulletin is paid for by Retired Americans PAC. Dateline Omaha. Election Day 2024. Nebraskans head to the polls. Hundreds of thousands of them rely on the Social Security and Medicare they earned. Do they know Senator Deb Fischer voted to raise the Social Security retirement age, cut benefits, and slash Medicare? That she voted against capping insulin costs at $35? Nebraska's seniors are asking, who will fight for our financial security and the benefits we paid for? Dan Osborne, veteran, works for a living, independent candidate for U.S. Senate. Unlike Deb Fischer, he's not funded by the drug lobby and big corporations. On November 5th, it's your turn to vote to protect Social Security and Medicare. Vote Dan Osborne. Retired Americans PAC paid and is responsible for the content of this advertising. RetiredAmericansPAC.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Happy Halloween. It will be partly cloudy and cool this evening, with the temperature dropping into the low 40s by midnight. After midnight, mostly clear to partly cloudy and chilly, with a low temperature in the mid-30s. Friday, mostly sunny and breezy, with a high temperature in the low 60s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
Got some slow spots. You might want to find a different way around on your way home. Tonight you have downtown and all along O Street, stretching out to 84th Street. Also South 14th Street and Nebraska Parkway, and South 84th and Pioneers. Do keep in mind that Nebraska Parkway, 33rd to 40th Street, you have that eastbound lane closure that is going on weekdays only for paving work. And do be aware of the trick-or-treaters out this evening, and make sure the headlights are on. If you do see anything that gets your way, call our traffic tip line, 402-479-1414. Lincoln's listening to Time Saver Traffic.
Raising the roof on the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans, with the occasional net violation. You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
What do you say? Let's play some Fantasy Huskers right now. It's your chance to win a $50 gift card to Valentino's and $50 gift card to Best of Big Red. Throw your name in the hat. All you have to do is text in right now the word COAST, COAST. You text COAST to 402-479-1400. And this is being brought to you by Nebraska Sign Company. So Fantasy Huskers right now is your chance to win. COAST, text it in, 402-479-1400. Of course, the Huskers taking on UCLA this weekend. On Saturday, it's going to be an afternoon game. Hopefully, that is going to be a good sign for them to get that sixth win, take us to a bowl game. Kickoffs at 2:30. You can hear it right here on KLIN. All right, today we're joined in studio by Jeremy Kuehn, candidate for Lancaster County Commissioner, District Number 2, and longtime former Commissioner Larry Hudkins. And Larry, we left off talking about your story a little bit. I want to start out here. I talk about political trifecta. And I know I've talked to Jeremy about this, about the importance of the day-to-day lives and how it impacts us. It's the races that happen with city council, school board, and county commissioner. Am I correct in this?
You're absolutely correct. Probably the purest form of American democracy that we still have is in county government, where the people directly can get to their representatives. And always got to remember, we're a republic, not a pure democracy. So we elect somebody to represent our views and go forth. In Lancaster County, there's 5. And what I'm concerned about, it's been more of an extension of the city council and city hall in recent years. Didn't used to be that way, but I see more and more of that direction all the time. And so I just would urge people to take a look at commissioners. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, or independent, but choose somebody that reflects the values that are important to the people that are actually electing them.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Jeremy, let's talk about that. What are your priorities?
Sure.
Well, dig into those.
Mine are fairly simple. I think when somebody has 100 priorities, that means they're not going to do any of them.
Right. Very well. We know that, right?
Yeah. Top of the heap for me is public safety. I have a background in criminal justice. My undergrad is in criminal justice. And the linkage between prosperity and security seems intuitive, right? If you live in a safe community where you can raise your kids, where you can have a business, that's a good place to call home. So really leaning into that. And the biggest thing, and I've been pounding this war drum for a while, but it's got to be in recruitment. Because if you just, from a business perspective, when you have a lot of turnover, it's a big expense to retrain new people. And one of the things that happens with law enforcement is when you don't have enough officers, you end up with greater levels of burnout because you have the same number of calls for service, same number of wrecks, and same number of people out there doing all kinds of shenanigans. And when you don't have enough officers to address those needs, they just get burned out. It's not healthy for them. It's not healthy for the community. So leaning into recruitment there. And then the second thing is just making sure the county is focusing on what the county needs to focus on. I just call it core values or core services, because there are some things that the county does that they're by no means are they unethical, are they wrong, but it might not be what the voters are trusting our county to do. We need to make sure that our bridges are open so that way farmers, when they're completing their harvest, don't have to make an hour round trip around a bridge that they've had for years. We need to make sure that our roads are safe. Right now, we have about the dustiest roads I think anybody's ever seen, and it's because we can't find rock. Like, we can't find rocks. We need to find rocks, like rocks that don't turn into dust that clog up the engine, right? And it's just, it's just things like that. Like those are the problems commissioners need to solve, not necessarily how do we partner with the city on every single thing.
There's some partnerships for like daycare and stuff, which I'm hearing about. And I don't know how true that is or where it's going to go.
Sure.
Well, why is the commissioners from a county level dealing with something like that?
And here's the question. It's not that it's wrong. It's that it pulls on somebody's heartstring. And we have to be making value-based decisions. It's a 3-part thing for me. What's mandated by the state? What is the state depending on the county to execute on? Court services, health and human services, law enforcement, county attorney, roads and bridges. Those are the things the state is saying, hey, the county occupies a unique role, right? Then after that, once we've funded those things and made sure that, because those are the things, it doesn't matter who you are, how you vote, where you grew up. If you're living in Lancaster County, those things improve your quality of life. So we want to do those things really, really well. And then we can focus on other opportunities. This is why the property tax mess is what it is. Did you know Lancaster County is ranked 211 out of 3,143 counties for highest property tax burden
in the country? In the
country. We are top 7%. And
that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. And what we've got to do is every hand that dips into that bucket, whether it's a school board, whether it's the county, whoever else, airport authority, we've got to make sure that we are doing what we are uniquely supposed to be doing. And if we'll focus on that, I think we can get back to a place where it's a little bit more affordable to buy a house here, because a third to 40% of your payment isn't going to property tax.
Larry, property taxes, number one issue, special session. We've talked about it forever. Everybody got their pretty pink postcards in the mail with assessments going up in Lancaster County. How do we deal with it? I mean, you've been around, you're a farmer, active farmer, and you understand how this impacts your day-to-day life. And my son, 27 years old, bought his first home. He bought his first home this year and already got a pretty pink postcard with assessment going up. He's like, Dad, what's this? And I'm like, welcome to being an adult in Lancaster County. Yeah. How do we deal with that?
Well, we just have to get back to the original premise when we put the state income tax in under Governor Nambi Tiemann. The Farm Bureau and the Farmers Union and all of the groups agreed that we fund schools with a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 property, 1/3 sales, and 1/3 income tax. We've gotten so far away from it. The criticism in Omaha and Lincoln has been, would be a shift if we went back to more sales tax or more income tax. Well, the shift occurred for the last 15 years. We went away from that to the place right now. Property taxes are between 65 and 70% of what it's taken for schools. Been a school board member, been a county board member, which primarily rely on property taxes. We've got to find a different way of funding those entities. This is what our problem is. Give you an example. Down at Thayer County, Nebraska, I have a friend that farms, was on the school board at Superior, farms in Republic County, Kansas, and Thayer County in Nebraska. His taxes are in the neighborhood of 4 times higher, about $18 an acre. He testified to in Republic County, Kansas, $78 an acre in Thayer County, Nebraska.
Oh my goodness.
And he don't even have a fence there. He farms in Kansas and Nebraska and goes right straight too. Many, many years, we don't make $40 to $50, $60 difference in taxes off of that acre of ground. And particularly these last 3 years under drought, we've got a lot of young farmers that are in deep hurt in Lancaster County because of the drought and the low prices. A year ago, corn was about $6 a bushel. I just checked about 2 hours ago. It's $3.71 at Raymond, Nebraska at the co-op. Property taxes, even if you're a renter, you're going to pay them because it's passed on through. People don't realize how property tax impact our rate. So we've got to find a better way. And the commissioners, they're aware of this. There's mandates. They got to assess within a certain line, but they got to watch out how you're spending this money. We either got to reduce spending or we got to find a different way to finance our government and the things that are needed. I think education is one of our best things that we can do for as citizens in the United States. But maybe we got to stop and think about things before we give big red airlines $1.5 million.
Well, let me ask you this. You're here. I'm going to ask you. During the special session, right? We heard Nebraska's main core base, right, for income in industry, agriculture. But we hear that in some sects of people that are against all of this in regards to reducing property taxes or figuring out a different way to fund the schools, is that the ranchers and the farmers are almost like the enemy here. In other words, they're like, well, they're making all the money or their net worth is going up. When the reality is that's just not the case. Explain that to us.
Well, I think you hear something with the two senatorial candidates right now about the net worth increasing so much. That's you got to dig into that. You're certainly not doing that from earnings. The value has gone up on that farm or that ranch, but that doesn't bring you any more money per year. All it does is cost you more taxes. And farmers are land rich, cash poor. We typically operate on a 3 to 5% margin. I tell you, the last 3 years, it hasn't been that way. It really hurts when you have to go to the bank and borrow $42,000 to pay your property taxes. And that's our factory. I mean, sure, you can sell it. And I've heard people say, well, if you don't like it in Nebraska, why sell it and whatnot. But then you're out of a job. This is what we do for a living. You sell that factory, you sell that cow, she's not going to have a calf next year. It solves your problem for 1 year and gives you a bigger problem for life.
And I grew up on a farm, so I understand this. And I think a lot of people may not have. It's the same thing with my home here in Lincoln, right? My property value can go up and my property can make me more wealth from a net worth standpoint. Doesn't mean my income's going up, right? Doesn't mean my job's giving me more money or a raise in that process. But it's the same thing, but it's taken at times, for a lot of times with farmers and ranchers, when you have so much land, 10, 20, 30, 1,000 times net worth goes up. Yeah. But your income, you're limited unless you buy more land or you get more livestock.
Well, and you can't do that if you can't cash flow it. So you can grow to a point of efficiency, but there's a point of diminishing returns. Buying more machinery and more land doesn't always make you any more money. But what's really killing us right now is the high property taxes plus inflation. It's just laughable when you hear that our inflation is, I think I heard today it went down to 2.1. Well, the tire that I bought 3 years ago was front tire for one tractor was $327. I ran over a post, had to buy another one 2 months ago, $738. That's not 2 or 4%,
though.
That's a big 2% there.
That's a big one. Well, hey, we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we're going to find out, do you support Jeremy? That's what we're going to find out here in just a couple of minutes. We're still playing Fantasy Huskers. The word to text in, COAST, COAST, to 402-479-1400. And then we're going to pick a winner. Thanks so much for listening on your drive home.
Your city, your voice.
The border is our biggest problem right now.
Talk radio powered by you.
If we don't say something, nothing will change.
The voice of Lincoln is 1499.3 KLIN.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Sports Nightly is next on 1499.3 KLIN.
Hi, this is Investigator Joe Villamonte with the Lincoln Police Union, asking you to vote for Carolyn Bosin for legislator. As a prosecutor, Carolyn Bosin has always supported law enforcement to keep our community safe. Carolyn Bosin has the experience we need. Carolyn Bosin is the only choice for legislator to keep our community safe. Join the law enforcement community in voting to keep our community safe. Vote Carolyn Bosin on November 5th.
Paid for by Bosin for Legislature.
Why should Nebraskans believe anything Deb Fisher says about Dan Osborne, when Fisher's made a career out of breaking her promises, like her promise on term limits?
I do believe in term limits at the federal level.
And I would term limit myself.
The special interests who've made Deb a millionaire will say anything to keep her in office. This November, don't get catfished. Vote no on Deb Fisher's lies.
Retired Career Politicians PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
For radical liberal Kamala Harris, there's no compromising her extreme positions.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions.
That's Kamala Harris, stating that doctors and nurses should be forced to perform abortions, even if they have moral or religious objections. Kamala Harris has always been extreme on abortion, supporting a radical policy of no limits and no protections up until the moment of birth. That's why Kamala Harris supports Initiative 439 in Nebraska. With its intentionally vague language, Initiative 439 eliminates common sense protections for women and children. No parental notification for minors, no requirement that abortions be performed by doctors, and no protections for women from pressure and coercion. Reject Kamala Harris's extreme agenda. On your ballot, vote for Initiative 434 and no on Initiative 439. That's 4 and no on 9.
Paid for by Jim Shear for Regent.
Whose team is Dan Osborne on? The D.C. Democrats. Osborne says he loves Bernie Sanders. He promised to vote to pass their Green New Deal, which would destroy farming and ranching in Nebraska. And Osborne is on record saying he would reward illegal aliens entering our state with amnesty and Social Security benefits.
There definitely needs to be a clear path to citizenship. Just give him a damn Social Security card.
The Green New Deal would cost us our jobs. Illegal immigration costs us our security. If Dan Osborne wins, we lose. But Deb Fisher and President Trump are on our team. Deb will work with President Trump to secure our border. And she'll fight the left's big government agenda, threatening our jobs and freedoms. Trump's choice and Nebraska's voice. Deb Fisher for Senate.
I'm Deb Fisher. I'm running for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Fisher Victory Fund. Join Deb Fisher's team. Give today. FisherVictoryFund.com.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Happy Halloween. It will be partly cloudy and cool this evening, with the temperature dropping into the low 40s by midnight. After midnight, mostly clear to partly cloudy and chilly, with a low temperature in the mid-30s. Friday, mostly sunny and breezy, with a high temperature in the low 60s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
Tackling the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans head on. With the occasional targeting call, this is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, congratulations to Jeff for texting in and playing Fantasy Huskers. You are a winner. You're going to have to answer this question. When will the first turnover of the game be? I got it right today. What? I got it. I know. Your name's now on the hat to possibly win gift cards to Valentino's and Best of Big Red. Tune in tomorrow morning with LNK Today with Jack and Friends for your next chance to win. And obviously tomorrow afternoon again on Drive Time Nebraska, which will be Friday. We're also going to hear Cornhusker Pride by Phil Nickerson. I saw him this week, so everybody loves that song. Big thanks to our title sponsor, Lincoln Coin and Bullion. Thank you so much for supporting what we do. We appreciate that. My precious metals dealer for well over a decade. So important to buy gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, and it being part of your portfolio. We were talking during the break how important that is. So they work by appointment only. They want to keep your privacy to the utmost. Call them up for an appointment, 402-327-2853. All right, tomorrow David Russell's going to be in the studio. We're going to talk about his campaign for the commissioner ship as well. Monday, Deb Fisher will be in the studio. She's going to dig into Dan Osborne's flip-flopping, which will be interesting. And then on Tuesday, Election Day, we're going to have an extra hour of Drive Time Nebraska, taking your calls, talking to the candidates for their last pitch efforts for you, and also getting political commentary from Bud Seinhorst and Jack Riggins. Right now in the studio, we have Jeremy Kuehn and Larry Hudkins. Jeremy, you're running for commissioner. Larry, you've been a commissioner for nearly 30 years.
Same seat.
Oh, is it really
It's
too?
the same seat. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
It's like a heritage
District
moment
2.
happening here.
District 2. All right. So here's the question. So Krista Yoakum has a video out. I've got it on my computer right now. And it says, let me get it out. So I'm not, it says, the screen says bipartisan support, and it lists all these people. It makes it look like there's endorsements. Larry, you're on there as former commissioner. So my question to you is, who is your endorsement for this race for this seat?
The only person that ever asked me for my endorsement was Jeremy. And I didn't know him from Adam till probably a month ago. One night after supper, I got a call and we sat down and talked, and I didn't even know he was running for county commissioner. And we just had a lot in common. The things that he said made sense to me. He is a conservative. I am a conservative. I was born and raised a Democrat, but under the Reagan years, I got going that way. I vote both ways. I've the supporter of Governor Nelson when he was in. He appointed me to the National Cattlemen's Board. I look at the person, and that's how I make my decisions.
Jeremy, what have you learned from Larry? I know you guys have spent time together, and what I'm impressed by is this. I always believe that if you're going to have a successful team, you need to surround yourself with people that have already been there and done that. This is what I appreciate about this relationship, or how much has it meant to get to know Larry and just kind of learn from him?
Well, my whole purpose in calling Larry was because he has more experience on his own than the cumulative experience of the board right now. He's got a long amount of history. And so really a large part of my campaign has just been listening to the community, right? So one of the things that my opponent has attacked is the amount of time I've lived in Nebraska, which is ironic because a major part of what she does is getting new people to Nebraska, but she has attacked that. And I believe wherever you are, be a contributor, get involved, listen to the needs, and help provide some leadership. And Larry is a key voice of experience that I wanted to hear from. So I just gave him a call. And then at the end of the phone call, I just said, hey, would you endorse me for Lancaster County Commissioner? And he said that he would. And it's a huge honor.
It's all about going for the ask, is what I call ASK, by the way, going for the ask. How can people get more information about your campaign?
They can connect with me on my website at www.jeremykuehn.com. My last name is spelled Kuehn.com.
All right, Jeremy, Larry, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate your time here today and hope to have you back. I would love to get you to pick your brain on a lot of things, Larry.
Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you this afternoon.
You bet.
And we wish Jeremy the best.
Absolutely. All right. If you want to listen to the podcast for this show, go to klin.com, your favorite podcast service. Big thanks again to Jeremy and Larry for coming in. Also, thanks to my producer, Wyatt. Only 82,200 seconds left until we see each other again, my friends. I want you to seize everyone. Have a great night. Sports Nightly is up next.
From the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios, we are the voice of Lincoln. KLIN Lincoln. KDDK HD3 Lincoln. K257GN Lincoln is 1499.3 KLIN.